Hello, one and all. How are you this fine evening here? Tonight, the character we're going to focus on is Doublewoman. She is part of, just like Lygress and Space Warp, she's part of the team called the New Champions. They're going to be sort of like my exiles. They'll be going from universe to universe. And I'm assuming that she's going to be very similar to maybe not in attitude, but maybe Hawkwoman, Hawkgirl, because she does have the wings and actually be using a Hawkgirl pose tonight to draw from. So hopefully that's all good. So I guess we'll just start. Sorry about not being here last night as well. I didn't get home till like 10:30 or so after finishing helping my cousin move and unpack some of her stuff at home. So well, her new home, I should say. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess depending on how you think about it, there is not a lot to her costume. It's fairly plain. Just a lot of white. Well, hopefully Meadow should be along soon. He is, of course, finishing up the vomitorium over on his channel. Here's my mom with some.
Oh, by the way, our rent's going up in December.
Yeah, I saw you saw that. I'm on live right now.
Oh.
Talk about it after.
Yeah.
Gotta thank COVID for that. Normally it would be going up in this month. It would have went up this month, but because everything's pushed back because of minimal staff. In places. Okay. I gotta make this bigger, this bottom half. Because that's going to be too small. And hello to everybody who is out there watching at the moment. I hope you are doing well. Feel free to ask any questions or anything. It's not going back like it is in this. Here, maybe it's because I need to. And there's metal. Well, most likely metal. Yes, it is metal.
Hey.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm doing great, especially, look what I got in the mail. Got a vestry.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Nobody can even see that.
Oh, well, you can.
Although we could make it so people can see it.
Yeah.
Give me a second here. Where? Oh, yes. There, and let's switch off me, and there you go. There is his vested comic.
Yeah, I haven't even opened it out of the package yet. So
Ooh.
I'll probably read it after we're done with this.
Cool.
But yeah.
And in 2 to 3 weeks, you should have the Canadian Shield. Well, depending on Postal Service.
Yeah, I'm just getting a bunch of people's comics coming in.
Yeah. Okay, so are you showing anything tonight for drawing? Or?
No,
Uh-huh.
I just got off the podcast, so
Yeah, the vomitorium. Yeah, I was watching.
So it's not like I have anything set up.
I was watching for a bit. Mallet asked, what's with the pink background?
The room I'm in is pink, so the background is pink.
Could you paint the walls to make them not pink?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh.
But you know what? Pink's my favorite color, so I don't care. It's a great color.
Mallet says, damn it, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. And Kat says he also has pink hair.
Yeah, that's what happens when the walls are pink, so the light reflected off of them are pink. And my hair is almost white, so it's just going to pick up whatever color reflects.
Bullet says, oink, hair. Wow! Because Kat put an O accidentally as at first.
Well, pigs are pink, so I guess it's still fitting. I'm actually a pretty pink guy myself. Like, normally I'm pale, but if I've been out in the sun, I don't tan. Like, the actual base color of my skin is pink. I just get pinker. Or red if it burns.
Raise your hand if you can see the chat. Well, nobody can see me raise my hand. It's called engaging with the chat, Mallet. You talk about doing that. Instead of sitting here saying nothing. And I'm trying to engage. Not to enrage.
And I'm just trying to eat this watermelon.
Ew, watermelon. That sucks.
It's also kind of pink. I mean, it's reddish, but it's kind of like a light red, so you could kind of call watermelon pink.
Okay, he doesn't think reading the chat out is engaging with the chat.
Well, yeah, so from a person who's done a lot of streaming, right, to another, which I know you've done a lot of streaming.
Yeah.
To be engaging means you're the one that has to kind of steer and lead the conversation, and then the chat can interact and you can talk back. But it's not very engaging if you have to rely on the chat to create the conversation.
You know, the thing is, I've tried before. I ask questions and the chat never responds to my questions, or very seldom.
Well, you can't rely on them to respond, right? You just kind of have to learn how to monologue.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, well, you don't have to monologue because I'm here, right? We can have a dialogue. But depending on how many people on the show, whether you're by yourself or the chat's here, you just have to be able to be entertaining on your own. And then if somebody interacts with you, you can interact back with them.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to steer the flow of the entertainment even if there was nobody around. Should always stream as if nobody's watching.
Yeah. My problem is I don't think I have enough to say. Or what I have to say is not super interesting. Let's see. Mallet sort of regurgitating what you're saying, although he was saying practically at the same time.
Because he's on delay.
Yeah. Also, I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking.
Yeah. Well, I can see it. I have the chat up.
Yeah. You should be engaging enough without the chat. Yes, I should. But, the chat, some people in the chat like it when you read their stuff. And, what does it do? starting to draw what's her name's costume on my character. And do sketch cards. Well, right now I'm doing my character thing. The sketch card thing right now is over on Twitch, which I didn't do yesterday because I was helping my cousin move. Which again is why I wasn't here last night either.
Bullet's got a good point. Make sure that poll is wiped down after each act.
Mallet says, I think metal has come to the dark side. Just pretend nobody is here ever. Then why do it if nobody's there? It's like being a pole dancer. Cat says, Mallet, do you have experience with that? Cat. Mallet says, nope. We got the you read about Bullet saying wipe down the pole. Hey, Willie's here. Raggedy says he has been known as Neatlet in his younger days. We need notifications on this stuff because you enjoy it. Okay, notifications on what stuff? So how was the vomitorium today? I listened to a little bit. You were talking a whole bunch of supernatural stuff.
Yeah, that's not how it started. We were talking about Call of Duty, actually, and it eventually just got onto that. But I always enjoy talking about this stuff. The more fun episodes of the vomitorium are the one where of current events and just start talking about some like random rabbit hole that's interesting, like the time John was on and we just started talking about animals that could kill you. But this was a really fun one because I love talking about supernatural stuff. I have a lot of personal experiences with it.
Yeah. And dreams. You were talking about dreams. And not dreams that...
Yeah, and like dreams that were related to supernatural stuff.
Yeah. The aspect of dreaming while you're sleeping and all that. Not, dreams that you have of things you want to do in life.
Oh, yeah. I've actually been several layers deep in dreams before. Like being with dreams within dreams within dreams.
I don't think I've ever...
And I'll tell you, the more you dream, like within a dream, the weirder things get. Like the more layers down you go. Like things get really surreal and esoteric the further down you go.
Well, I can believe that. Because you're delving more and more down into your subconscious, probably. Probably.
There's probably a bedrock layer somewhere. I haven't hit it yet. I want to. It's probably not smart, though. You probably have monsters lying inside your subconscious waiting. But it's fun. Because like I said, I don't consider anything I've ever had a nightmare.
Yeah.
Even frightening things. I have fun dreaming. Like, it's genuinely a form of entertainment I look forward to at the end of my day.
Yeah. I've never had a nightmare that I can remember. Then again, I barely remember dreaming every night. Most of the times, I have no recollection of anything I dream. Every few months I might remember sort of a synopsis of one of my dreams that night, but the odd time I might have it a couple days in a row and then it's like months without anything.
Kat says she hardly dreams anymore. That's sad. I feel really bad for that, people who hardly dream.
Well,
and it's probably because I enjoy it so much. Like empathetically, I would hate it if I hardly dreamed.
Again, the question isn't, well, I've said it for years, it's more a question of, it's not so much that she doesn't dream, or I don't even dream, it's that you don't remember what you've dreamed about.
Well, that could be the case, but sometimes you do just not dream.
Yeah.
And I can tell you because my dreams to me are like memories, right? As soon as they've happened, I remember every dream I've had.
Mm.
But like memories, only certain ones really stick long term. So like a few weeks later, I might forget different ones or whatever. But because I remember every single dream I've had, sometimes like I'm aware if I'm not dreaming, like it'll just be like snow on a TV.
Yeah.
For that period, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And my mom says good evening to everyone. Well, a good evening to you, Mom. Or is it good night?
Well, good night typically makes you think you're going to go to bed.
Yeah.
While good evening is kind of more inviting, like, hey, we still have the evening to go.
Yeah.
And to respond to Kat, no, I'm not like actually dreaming of snow on TV. It's not exactly that. It's kind of like static, but it isn't. It's just the best way I can explain it. It's like I'm aware that there's no input. If that makes sense. Like I know there isn't a dream there. It doesn't happen very often, but I know when there's no dream that night, or because sometimes I'll have multiple dreams per night.
So, yeah, that was a little bit of an interesting topic. I put a few comments in, as you may
Yeah, I saw. I think we responded to at least one of them.
Yeah.
You know, like I've told you before, when we're on the podcast, we'll respond to things that help move the flow of the conversation. Yeah. But because we're trying to focus on a conversation, we try not to respond to everything.
Yeah. Unlike here, where I respond to stuff just to keep it going. Somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is everybody excited? Next week we will return to High Noon, although I don't know exactly what I'll be doing on High Noon. I gotta figure out the difference, what I'm gonna do on High Noon, and then what I'm going to do on After Dark, because I do plan on continuing After Dark.
Well, Evan says that it's about time you continue High Noon.
And I'm going to try and make sure this weekend that I can use Restream and probably do High Noon on 3 platforms. YouTube, of course, Twitch, and DLive. Just for the summer, although I did do, for a while, I did put the High Noon theme song on Twitch when I was doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. But for the last few times of doing it on Twitch, I did not yet put the thing on, so. But it's going to be officially back next Tuesday, with September the 1st being that day. So.
Oh man, September 1st is coming fast. They got a deadline. I'm almost done. I'm on the last 2 pages. I think I'll be fine.
Cool. Bullet says, I thought Model bought High Noon from you. No, he didn't buy it from me.
Maybe he stole it from you.
As far as I know, he hasn't been on. Then again, I don't get Twitch. Usually get Twitch notifications, so.
I get Twitch notifications.
Then again, that could be because I turned them off. I've turned off most of my notifications. I don't like.
Model goes on like really early, like whenever he starts working for the day. And because I go to bed like really early in the morning, a lot of times I'll see him hop on like right as I'm going to bed. Sometimes I'll hop in for a little bit too before I pass out.
It says
Or just bother him from the chat.
Yeah. So Bullet says, so Model was doing an unofficial high noon streams all summer. I guess so.
It's not like you have copyright ownership of the phrase high noon.
Yeah. Especially for just, like a YouTube cat thing. Who'd be crazy enough to do that?
I think it'd be really hard to do that too, because it's a common phrase.
Yeah. I could get a TV. Actually, it may or may not, because you could grab a TV show and call it High Noon. There's a movie called High Noon. So
yeah, but that doesn't mean they have an enforceable trademark on it.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are just basically public domain. That's why there's a lot of movies and books with the same name but different plots.
Yeah. Well, they might not have an enforceable trademark, but they probably have an enforceable copyright. But
the copyright wouldn't be on that name, right?
Well, it'd be on the shows. It'd be on the name, but it wouldn't be. It'd be on that show in general, High Noon. So doing anything with that show in general, you could be infringing on copyright.
Yeah. Because you can't actually copyright names, not really. You can trademark words, right? The only thing that's copyright is a concept. So like the scripting, the actual plot of the show and stuff like that, you would have a copyright over that because those are concepts. Enforced because somebody could do something loosely like your concept, but if it's different enough, nobody will enforce it. And that's why trademarks are important. And then you can actually trademark an original word or name or something like that. And that's highly enforceable. But there's certain words that are common use, so you can't trademark common use words.
No.
Yeah. Bullet, like the guy who had the trademark for the word edge, and he tried to enforce it on anybody who put edge in their games. Not really enforceable because the word edge goes back way longer than video games did. Edge of a blade. Edge of a cliff, all that stuff.
Edge of skates,
Yep.
Christopher's like, no face, all breasts. He said it a little bit more crudely. I hadn't gotten to the face yet, Christopher. Although I did start with her breasts in drawing her.
That's typically not where I start when I'm drawing somebody.
Sometimes
I think it's because I habitually always start with the head.
Sometimes I start with the head. Sometimes I start with the chest. Bullets. He was a classic guy. Christopher's like, yeah, that where you start.
I also feel like the face is the most important part. So like if you nail the face, anything else that you kind of just get a little wonky doesn't matter as much. Like you should try to get your anatomy as good as possible, unless you have to intentionally break it for dynamic purposes, make something look like it's energized. But like faces are the first thing that we're ever able to detect in life. Like usually your mother's face is the first one you detect, but you could track faces from an early age, so much so that we start seeing faces in places where there aren't faces.
Yeah.
And it's like really important to get expressions and faces down, more so than anything else in the figure.
Yeah. Bullet says, I like to nail the face. Christopher says, phrasing with a rolling on the floor, laughing, and a thumbs up.
Oh, you think my innuendos are unintentional? I've gotten to the point that I just naturally speak in innuendos without even thinking about it. So yeah, they probably aren't intentional, but they were at one point. It's kind of like a bad habit you can't stop.
Bullet says, give it a good covering. Gotta love all the innuendos there tonight.
Or double entendres, which I think is what Bullet's talking about when he says double Nintendo. Double entendres are the best. They're the best type of innuendo.
Yeah. Because if you do them right, you know, you can use them where adults get it. The kids laugh because they think it's funny for some reason. And they just don't
But then
know
the
why.
adults laugh because they get the real reason it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like old cartoons used to do that all the time. Especially anything Warner, right? Like Looney Tunes, eventually Tiny Toons and Animaniacs out of the same general production line. Oh, they were littered with innuendos and double entendre.
Yeah. Disney is actually littered with them too.
Yeah. I just don't think Disney's ever done it as well. Because they do it, they try to do it pretty subtly, but like, man, like Animaniacs specifically were cheeky about it, and sometimes they would be intentionally in your face. Like they didn't even care.
Yeah. Oh, heck. One phrase that I think I got from there, Animaniacs. Hello, nice!
Or like anytime they would say something that was supposed to be lewd. This is how the kids start picking up on it, because you start to see the pattern that this would get said afterwards. Yak would be like, "Good night, everybody."
Christopher says, I don't know, Rick. Looks like she needs some implants, so she looks like a real woman. Either that, I just need to slim down. She does have fairly large chest, I'd say. It might be the slant or whatever. It makes it hard to see. Although her
So I'm guessing Christopher C thinks women with like double A cups aren't real women. Because don't get me wrong, I like my busty babes. But what's more important is making sure you actually get the figure of the woman down. Like, if you get the figure of a woman down properly, doesn't matter how big or small you make the breast portion, you can tell it's a woman at a glance.
Come back to that hand. I think I did good on this up to the knees. The knees and below, I don't think the legs are quite big enough. Probably, I don't know what to do to make them look bigger. But then again, could be the foreshortening or whatever they're just trying to make sure was in. So, thinking about 2 projects I want to do as soon as I'm fulfilled. I may or may not do them at the same time. Do a coloring book over on Kickstarter, and maybe do a sketchbook over on Indiegogo. Sketchbook would have probably about 100 and something pics of stuff that I've drawn. DC, Marvel, everything.
I personally just don't get the appeal of sketchbooks.
Yeah, me neither. But, some people are into them, and it's an easy project to do, so, it's
I don't even think I would do a campaign for one. Like, if I ever put one out, I would probably just put it directly print on demand on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, again, the only reason I want to try it is I want to try it on thing with Canadian funds.
Yeah. Well, the main reason I'm thinking that too is like, if you're a no name, who wants your sketchbook, right?
Yeah. Well, they might want it because years to come I might be famous and that's so.
Well, that's also why I wouldn't do it, because like nobody knows who I am.
Yeah. And the only thing is, it's like I'm thinking like $10, plus $5 delivery, so 15 in total. Maybe even less. Maybe only $10 with delivery. Because I was looking at pricing it, and I was looking at the pricing with some colored ones in there. So I might try and just make it black and white. Christopher saying you can make it a perk for a campaign. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could do that too. It's just I wanted to try out something small on Indiegogo with Canadian funds, see how well that works to me getting the money. Just like that's the reason why I'm doing the Cross Comics coloring book too. Hey, Eagle. And that it's just something that if it funds, fine. Well, I want it to fund more just so I can test out the waters and get my money. Other than that, I don't really care if it funds. Well, obviously, if it fund, I would.
Well, wouldn't you have to make sure it at least hits a minimum fund to find out whether you'd get your money or not?
Yeah, that's the only thing, Like, I'd be going very minimum. The minimum that they allow you to do on Indiegogo is 500. So, I would just put a $500 goal. But at $10 a pop, you need 50 people to buy it. Unless I can figure out some way to have a bigger tier where I can build up the money a little bit faster. But on something like that, I can't really think of anything except for maybe some of the artwork that's still available. Because some of the artwork would not be available. Still. But most of it actually is. There is the question out there too. Would anybody be interested in a sketchbook or even the coloring book by me for just Cross Comics characters? Although the coloring book would have multiple people having put images in for it. Sketchbook, of course, would just be all my images of my characters, Marvel and DC characters, some anime characters, Disney princesses, some Disney stuff. Some of my characters.
I don't know. I always get weird when it comes to selling things that have other people's properties in it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was asking Gary Shipman earlier about that, the legalities. Because he's done a couple of things like that. And, there's a couple other people that have, I forget who I know lately has, but the one guy that did Red and Black, I think it was, or whatever. He did a whole bunch of drawings and then just put some red in certain areas of the things. It's like a gray area, And I'm not really trying to make any money off this, all I care about is breaking even. So. And he was saying about, he has his own stuff in there, his own characters and all that too. So, and it's just not one company or whatever. Heck, if I didn't have, if anybody else has got ideas for small projects, I'd be open to it. That's the only reason I'm thinking about it is it's an easy project, to do. a lot of Disney characters were public domain. Yeah.
Well, if they're like the really old ones, yeah. Or even if they're, I guess, like Grimm stories and stuff. The problem is the Disney versions of those characters aren't public domain, right? So the way public domain works is that you have to do the version or your own interpretation of the version of the character that's public domain, right?
Yeah.
So like you could do anything you want with Cinderella, but you can't necessarily do anything with Disney's Cinderella.
Yeah.
Though, you know, there are certain loopholes, parody laws and stuff like that, but it's some of them, especially with how good their lawyers are, it's like you don't even want to try.
Especially when you can't even afford a lawyer.
Yeah. You know, thank God they abolished the law that certain districts had where you can't even represent yourself.
Yeah. Frankly, I think...
Which is always here non-constitutional. That's why they had to abolish it in the districts that did that.
Yeah. I think it's even stupid that, you know, you can't get anybody that you want to represent you, you know?
If they're not certified.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that's dumb, too.
Because if you want to take that chance, that's up to you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah,
especially it's like, you know, talk about freedom and constitutional rights or anything, depending on what your form of documents are in different countries, right? Like, why does that place's certification matter more than your own discernment? If you're truly living in a free place, if you want to make the mistake of having somebody who didn't go to school, who doesn't know the law, argue on your behalf poorly, why does the certification matter more than your personal discernment?
Yeah.
If anything, the places that do certify should just be actively encouraging you to go through them because it would be in your best interest.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not sure what Canada's laws are like on whether you, for all the representation stuff or whatever. You know, because I watch too much American TV.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, it's stupid that, you know, you can't get anybody to represent you that you want, you know?
Yeah, I've seen the argument that incompetent counsel can be grounds for a mistrial. But that's where personal responsibility has to come in.
Yeah, well, see, at that point, if you're getting somebody that's not a lawyer, you know, make it the law that, you know, incompetent counsel can't be a thing because you've chosen to get somebody other than somebody that's gone to law school. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. You could still have a very competent person too, right? Who went to law school but never got certified, maybe for political reasons, right? Like people kept him out. And he could be better than a lot of the lawyers. But because they're not certified under the bar, you can't use them as representation.
Yeah. But what I mean is, you know, like, say you get somebody that's not quote unquote certified, and you lose, right? For whatever reason. You know, just make it a law at that point. You cannot sue or, you know, have grounds for mistrial based on incompetent thing because they're not registered.
Well, here's also the other problem, right? And this is where I think it really gets cheeky. Because everybody has to be certified, you could still have incompetent counsel
Yeah.
But because they're certified under the bar, they could throw that out, and it can no longer be grounds for a mistrial. Because the opposite is a problem. I've met a lot of people that are incompetent lawyers.
Yeah. But what I'm saying
but they're still certified, so it doesn't matter.
But what I'm saying, if they're certified, then you can, have the grounds to have it a mistrial because they're incompetent, But if you get somebody who's not...
No, but the argument is that you can't, right?
Yeah.
Because they're certified.
Oh.
And by the fact of the certification, due to the political nature of any system, and cannot be deemed incompetent. Or else why would they be certified?
Yeah.
Like you see the dilemma there.
Yeah, people are deemed... Sometimes there's grounds for dismissal based on that, I think. Still. I'm not sure. Is there ones that people who have registered with the bar or got their... went through it?
Well, the way the bar works...
You're breaking up. Or broke up.
It's very... Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. It's just the internet connection here is not always good. But anyway, so the weird thing with the bar, right, is that you cannot even represent in a state other than the one that you're certified in, even if you know constitutional law, because they want you to know all the meticulous stuff of your state, unless you're sponsored by a local agency. There's a whole bunch of loopholes and stuff you have to jump through. On the board of the state, right? And a lot of the local laws and everything. It just doesn't matter.
It's stupidness, craziness, just to make people pay.
And I get a lot of the arguments. Not all the arguments are bad. There are some really good arguments for why people have to be certified and why you can't even be legally allowed and so on and so forth. I just think they don't beat the arguments for the other way around.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Although I don't know the arguments for both. All the arguments for both ways. I just think, if you want to be dumb enough or whatever.
Well, part of it goes back to the incompetent counsel, right?
Yeah.
Because legal matters become a matter of the state, right?
Yeah.
I mean that not the local way we use state here in the states, but the nation, just the governing body.
Yeah. It
becomes a problem of the governing body. So if the governing body allows you to handle into this legal matters with an incompetent person, it falls on them because they're responsible for the legal matters.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of why I'm not really a guy who's for insurance in almost anything. I think insurance is kind of a scam, but I get it when cars are involved, right?
Yeah.
So why, of all things, if you need to be forced to have insurance, car insurance makes sense. Is if you are driving on private roads, it wouldn't matter. But because the roads belong to the state, anything that happens on the roads.
Yeah.
So to me, is that the insurance companies still are scams. So despite this argument that I'm going to say that companies will still screw you over, it doesn't actually solve the problem.
Yeah.
But to damages can be properly adjusted for in case of an accident or something, then the state has to make sure that there is some type of fund prepared for grievances. And that's what insurance can cause. Again, there's a lot of holes in the logic, especially because these private entities that run the insurance can often be bastards. Excuse the language, but I can't think of anything better to call them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because there's greed corrupts the system,
Yeah.
ultimately.
But this is also why I try not to make decisions purely on because my biggest principle is pragmatism.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in reality. It doesn't matter how principled it sounds.
True.
Which is why ultimately I really don't have too much of a problem with the representation thing, because for the most part our legal system works. There's some problems with here and there, but on the whole, if you were to actually break it down into statistics, the British common law legal system, which is what we share in common,
Yeah.
is at least 80% effective, if not more.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. It's nothing perfect. It's not perfect, but then again, there's not too much perfect on the planet at the moment, so.
Yeah, and there could be a better system waiting to be discovered, but when it comes to law, we haven't discovered a better system yet.
Yeah.
We're using the best one we found.
Then again, the question is anybody looking for a better system, and how do you find out the system, or there is a better system, without incorporating it?
Usually they have to evolve.
Yeah.
If you look at British common law, it's a system that evolved over centuries, right?
Yeah.
With just meticulous changes to governments, different documents, agreements between people and societies and stuff like that, creating a social contract. It's kind of hard to just create a system.
Yeah.
Things that kind of derive themselves out of reality tend to work better.
Yeah, I think we still even have some of the same practices from Roman and law, and I think Judeo law.
There's a lot of influence from both. Well, even not just both, but you get influences from the Greeks. There's a lot of influence from early Judeo-Christian culture.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
The Romans were also heavily influenced by the Greeks.
Yeah.
These all things have all had influence on society. In fact, our debate structure can be traced all the way back to Greece. And much of our legal system of arguing in court between two representatives is very similar to the Greek rhetoric structure.
Yeah.
Which I guess is much better than the Gothic structure, because if we were doing things the way the Scandinavian people were doing it for a long time, before more influence from the South, much of our court affairs, as they would call it, would be done in Scaldi, which is basically slam poetry. So a lot of their court affairs were documented and even handled in like the equivalent of medieval rap battles.
Christopher says, how effective? There is a 90% conviction rate for petty crimes, but corporate convictions fall dramatically. Unfortunately, I guess that's how you can get the 80%. Because of the petty crimes getting so good. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem too, right? Because I'm probably looking at it district by district and not by actual numbers. If we actually take in population, right, the vast majority of all crimes, especially petty, happen in big cities, right? And everybody knows how corrupt the big cities are, but they're also where the majority of the population is. So if we're not looking by district and we're actually just looking by raw output, it may drop a lot lower in percentage. But in most places in general, it's working properly. So it does, it's the way statistics work. You can kind of just bend details and pick the ones that you want to make your thing fit your narrative. And it does very much depend on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the population's in big cities, so. I think like 50% of the U.S.'s population falls within 2 counties.
But then
or
again,
something close to that.
yeah. But then you forget corporate crimes. Corporate, unfortunately, that they're the people that can seem to talk fast enough to get out of it or whatever.
Well, they have the money to pay for the best lawyers. That's the real problem there, right? And that also comes down to a problem with the way representation is structured.
But then you have your beyond petty crimes, like your murders and all that. What's the conviction rate for that? And true convictions, because, obviously some people are found guilty that
False convictions.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the reverse where the other people are getting away with it that shouldn't be getting away with it for whatever reason.
Well, corporate crimes specifically, though, are always been one of my biggest arguments against the way our representation is structured. Especially, and the problem is, lawyers make a lot of money for good reasons, but also their education costs a lot, right? Like the best lawyers have really expensive educations. So they need to kind of make that back. And you understand too, like that they need to make it back. So if we could lower the cost of education, that would probably fix some of those problems. But I think it really depends on I think we need to take money out of the legal system as best as possible. If people were just assigned lawyers, but to do that, that means taxes would probably have to go up. And I'm usually against taxes going up in general because somebody would still have to pay these lawyers. They'd have to be state assigned, which means they'd have to work for the state and the state would have to pay it. And anytime the state has to pay for anything, taxes have to go up. And if taxes go up, that's a problem. Yeah. So, that's again why I go to pragmatism. I kind of like the way things work now, even with the problems I have with it, just because they mostly work.
Timothy's here and he says, kind of depends on how good the lawyer is, right? Yeah. Timothy says, are public defenders any good?
It varies. That's the problem, right? And a lot of public defenders just get creamed by good attorneys. Some of them are just really good and they're kind-hearted people that want to go into the public defense sector, but
yeah. Well,
I think those are rarer than not.
That's probably part of your problem. A lot of public defenders are overloaded with cases.
Because there's not enough of them, too.
Yeah. And they're there. Sometimes you can have great public defenders, but because they've got so many cases...
And the existence of the public defender is also mostly strictly because they won't let you pick representation other than yourself if you can't afford somebody. And you have the right to representation. So one will be provided if you can't afford it.
Yeah. I don't
know if defunding the military is a smart idea, though.
I'm not sure exactly how it works here for public defenders. I've known a couple people in trouble with the law, and I think they were able to get pretty much any lawyer that they wanted, and the government would pay them probably not, necessarily that their regular rate or whatever, but I'm not sure whether that's how it works exactly. I think it works slightly different than it does down there. So, here in Canada. And you responded to Christopher. Yeah, I think defunding the military isn't necessarily a good idea. Well, actually, probably here in Canada and the States, it wouldn't be so bad because we don't have too many other nations around us.
I do agree to stop funding endless wars, but the States specifically, a lot of people complain that the United States is like the world hegemony, like they're the world police and stuff. But the problem is, aside from these wars, which I think we do need to get out of, we are probably one of the more benevolent people that would be world police. If you take the U.S. away, the vacuum that gets filled by somebody else of the same monetary and military power would be way worse in like every way.
But, like if you're over in the middle of Europe, yeah, probably having a good military would be a good idea because, you got 5 or 6 other nations around you, minimum, that are aggressive. If the States, who do they have to worry about? Canada? And I think would
Mexico.
be although I do think Canada could be a minor threat. A lot worse than Mexico, mind you.
No, I think the biggest threat would actually be China, because they actually would sail their butts over here.
Yeah, well, that's why you have your east and your west coast borders defended. Defended. Inkwell's here.
Well, you'd have to go all the way down though, because they just keep going south. They'd march up through undefended countries like Mexico or whatever just to get in.
Yeah.
Like the problem is of scale, right?
Christopher says, laugh out loud, malevolent unless you have oil.
I said mostly and in comparison. Like, especially if the U.S. stopped being the world police, China would start trying to be the world police.
Let's see. Inkwell is here and says, good evening. Timothy says, why don't you think we don't mess with North Korea because we don't want to take on China too? Well, Trump sort of did. Trump's taken on technically both of them. At least China with the tariffs. I'm doing good, Inkwell. Inkwell asks, how's everyone doing despite the circumstances? Christopher says the U.S. is the most aggressive country on earth. Although I disagree with the states going into a bunch of different countries and trying to solve their problems for them. Maybe that's an oversimplification or slightly wrong. I wouldn't say they're the most aggressive. Unfortunately, a lot of the more aggressive ones, they don't have a bigger army, so they're not quite as...
Yeah, I would agree with the argument that we're probably the most powerful aggressive country.
Yeah.
But when it comes to military power, we're also just the most powerful country.
Count the wars. Yeah, well, there's lots of wars going on over other places, too. I'm not sure how many wars the states have been involved in since they're...
Also, war is kind of like the natural state for human society if you just read history. Peace is a temporary state in between wars. I mean, God, especially the history of Europe. Oof. Prior to the United States even being a place, it's just the entire history of Europe is just nothing but war. Like, you look at all the dynasties overthrowing each other constantly.
Christopher says, most powerful military can't win any war. I wouldn't say can't. Or at least not without help, it seems. Timothy says, what about the Middle East? Well, they're not trying to go in there and take over.
No, he's talking about aggressiveness of the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I really don't think most countries, there's very few that aren't aggressive, right? At least historically. Some of them might be less aggressive now, which is good. But, I mean, historically, there's very few that aren't aggressive at all.
Well, heck, look at, I know this is very ancient, but Rome. Rome was super aggressive.
Yeah. Well, the entire history of the world, from, like, earliest societies expanding outward, nothing but conquer and war.
Timothy says, except Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II, does store, but we can't win any wars. Well, World War I and World War II, they actually had help from the rest of their allies.
It was a group effort. But even most wars, like the Revolutionary, was a group effort. Like, I'm in the States, but I'm not going to say that, like, the United States won that war by themselves. France was heavily involved. Spain was also occupying a lot of British's troops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everything in history is always a lot more complicated than people want to paint them.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure about the other.
And even
wars
England had help, right? Because they had German mercenaries and stuff helping them during that.
No. What was two other major wars? Korea and Nam. Now, one of them, I know you guys, the States got their butt handed to them. The other one, I'm not sure what happened.
Well, the biggest problem specifically with Nam, because I know a little bit more about that than Korea, is the people at home got demoralized. And one of the problems is you cannot, and even the people over there got demoralized, you can't win a war if you're demoralized. And you can see this going back all the way through history. Every battle up until his last campaign, when his men got demoralized and even attempted a mutiny on him at one point in time. And one of the biggest things that demoralized him was in one battle when a spear landed right in his lung.
Christopher says, World War II, we helped the Soviets and the English. Would have won without us. Okay. I think that we helped the Soviets and the English. Weren't the Soviets and the English on the opposite sides?
No, they were on the same side, just on opposite fronts.
No, okay.
The Eastern and Western Front.
Yeah. And it wasn't until Pearl Harbor that you guys got involved in. Actually, if I remember.
Yeah, but I think Canada was actually involved in the war prior than us.
Yeah. Well, you guys got involved with Japan first, and then I think Churchill tricked you into thinking Japan was actually with Germany.
Yeah, it was a crazy mess.
And actually, from things I've heard, is that before Japan struck Pearl Harbor, you guys were possibly going to be going in on the German side.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation about what was going on.
Not from what I know, Timothy. Not at first. They weren't allies. They were just doing their own thing, taking advantage.
Well, something you gotta know about Japan, for a while, they've just been constantly trying to sack China and the coastal countries. Because Japan used to be very, what's the word? Viking-like, I guess. They were kind of like the Vikings of the Pacific coast. Because Japan, I guess a part of them are still the same because like they're not aggressive, but like yeah, the what was the term? The personality of people don't really change that fast over generations. Changed a lot, but they used to be really aggressive, sacking Okinawa before Okinawa was actually part of Japan. It's still technically, I think, a private territory. But they would go up and just sack China. Not that China doesn't deserve it, mind you. But that doesn't mean that you could just let them get away with it. Because China was also just sacking everybody else around them for the longest time, too.
Since we're just...
It's like I said, you know, most of the history of the world is just people sacking people left and right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, everybody wants control, and they want more land, more power, and all that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, as far as I know, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, they were not in league with Germany at all. They were just doing their own thing. And then, as from what I've heard, and I could be wrong. You know, Churchill made it seem like they were in league with Germany to get the States in on the World War against Germany. Now, like I said, I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me if they've heard differently, but I'm pretty sure what I was taught in history class or somewhere or whatever.
The Art of Read says you guys are just chock full of useless info, aren't you?
Yep.
Well, contextually speaking, nothing is necessarily useless information. It just matters on when is the time to apply it.
Yes, if we are in danger, we are screwed because the info we have would not be helpful. So just a few more days, and the Canadian Shield will be in. There was a day delay, so it's not going to be coming in on Monday now. It's going to be coming in on Tuesday. So that'll be good because, you know, that'll be, well, it might come in during high noon. Would that be awesome? Or have it in just before high noon? You know, and it, you know, on the first new high noon, we have it to unbox. Timothy says, "Hey, Mr. Gunman, would you like to hear about World War II?" Well, Mr. Gunman, if he was involved in World War II, I would be telling him, I would be asking him.
No, he's talking about like if somebody was holding you up by gunpoint.
Oh, yeah. Does the Canadian Shield have a battle cry? Not yet. He might eventually.
As long as it's better than Spoon.
He's got to get adapted to society and all that. Christopher says, I believe it's I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry! As he's punching you. Oof.
That'd probably be, at least from an outsider's perspective, the most stereotypically Canadian battle cry you could have.
Or I could have him say, this is what it's about! As he's hitting somebody.
Well, I don't know how long do you think it would take him to pick up the accent? Because if you live in a place long enough, you will eventually like adjust to the accent of the place.
It's hard to say. Well, we got to remember that he's traveling for, well, I'm not sure whether it will be a little year and a half, but in the comics, it's approximately a year and a half for him to get where he appeared in our time back to the Hamilton area.
Yeah.
So.
And if he's heading towards Hamilton, and that's going to be like his main setup, right?
Yeah. Because
then obviously his accent would be closer to people like in your area, and you guys sound more like Michigan or upstate New York than you actually do what people think Canadians sound like.
Yeah. You know, and he was originally from this area before he got zapped into the future, transported to the future too. So
yeah,
that's why I'm having him.
But like, I think that most Canadian would be to say sorry about that while he's punching him.
Timothy says, "Oh dear, excuse me, I'm sorry." Christopher's, yeah, you're right. It probably need to be in French to be legal. Not here. Although I might have to do it in both Canada, English and French. No, that's only for signs. Well,
you should totally get somebody who speaks like, not even like fluid French, like French Canadian, like so that get the colloquialisms in the areas and stuff, to just translate your comics and sell it to your neighbors that are province away.
Yeah, well, I'll probably have to do that for sure for the Flame. He lives in Montreal, but he's going to be English speaking. He's an English speaking person. I never really thought of that while I was doing his comic. A lot of his signs are going to be in French for things and all that.
Well, you should just find out some slight colloquialisms. Kind of like how Gambit, being from New Orleans, will say things like mon chéri and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mon cher. And just slip it in. Like every so often, he just like slips into it at the end of phrases and stuff.
Yeah. Timothy says then, if it's in French, his battle cry would be, I surrender! Oh, no, not here in Canada. Not in here in Canada. Those French people don't surrender. They've been trying to fight the...
Yeah. Of all the people in Canada, from my experience, the French Canadians are actually the aggressive ones.
Heck, they've been trying to do a separation battle for the last 50 years. And they haven't won. Well, actually, a certain party, the Bloc Québécois, has. But half the province, last time we did a referendum for it, it was about half and half. Half the or at least half the people that got out and voted for the referendum there said they didn't want to vote, and the other half said they did. Timothy says, funny story. Conan O'Brien got his show kicked out because of that joke.
Oh, I thought it would have got kicked out because it wasn't funny.
Well, it wasn't funny to them.
No, I mean the whole show.
Oh. The whole show wasn't funny to them. uh, Give me these, ooh, oh, ouch, and that he loves the show.
I can't find myself watching any talk show because they kind of like, they still act like they're in an era that's not around anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like these talk shows feel like it's still the 90s when you watch them, but it's not. And they're like in this dated, bygone format that just doesn't work as well anymore. And it's like clinging to life support.
Yeah. I don't watch many of those.
Though I've seen some really good internet talk shows.
Timothy says recently it's all Trump jokes and it gets old. Yeah. You know, you can only tell the same subject matter joke so many times before everybody loses interest. It's like telling cow jokes all the time or whatever. Or, I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, I've watched some old Carson. Yeah, Carson was cool in the 70s. But I think talk shows worked from their like inception all the way up through the 90s. I don't think they've really worked well after that.
Yeah.
Especially as cable became bigger. And now you get like cable networks trying to do the same thing when they have less restrictions and they could like experiment with formats and stuff like that. And I don't know.
Timothy says because they're all on the Trump jokes. Yeah, that too, you know. And that's because everybody wants to hate on Trump. Meanwhile, for reasons that aren't true. Let's see, and then Christopher says, yeah, the internet killed them, the talk shows I think he's referring to. My mom says Canada used to have that job until Trudeau. Okay, I don't quite get what you mean, Mom. What, hating on Trump or telling Trump jokes?
Or maybe being the thing that was joked about? I don't know.
Yeah. Canada used to joke about the U.S. Well, we still do, but...
Yeah. There's actually a couple of the British talk shows aren't as bad, but even the long-running ones, they've been experimenting more, right? Like, I don't mind Graham Norton's show because it feels more casual and relaxed. It's just like a bunch of people sitting on a couch joking about things, which is a lot older of a format, too, if you go back farther, but they've kind of updated it. But it still just isn't as good as, like, internet talk shows. Like, it still feels just kind of dated compared to some of the stuff you see on the internet.
Timothy says, even when Reagan was president, they made funny of a variety of things. Or Bush, too, you know. And
Bush was fun to make fun of, though.
And Christopher says, well, not true is a stretch. That's, I guess, the Trump thing. Well, most of it's not true. From what I know, I haven't heard the jokes, but, you know, from a lot of the stuff people accuse Trump of, I've done enough research to realize it's not true. I'd say probably 90% of what they accuse him of.
Well, there's only one that really bothers me, and that's Stephen Colbert. And it's not the jokes, because I really don't give a shit. One of the coolest things about our country is that you're free to just joke about anybody who's in power. And I think people should. I don't care. The thing that bothers me is that his Trump impression is just really, really bad. Like, I've seen random people on the street do a better impression than him.
Timothy says, Sleazy P. Martinez live chat and Dr. Deadman's show is good. And I have no idea who those guys are. Wonder what else we can talk about. Oh, anybody see the new Superman animated movie yet?
No, I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah, just Superman Man of Tomorrow.
No, I have not seen it. I'm gonna go look up images of this thing.
Yeah, it just came out like Saturday. Or Sunday.
It looks like the same general animation studio and like style that they've been doing for things.
Yeah,
a little thicker on the lines though.
Yeah, it is a slightly different because you're like it's got a slightly more cartoony feel to it because of the thicker lines.
Yeah. It almost looks like halfway between the last style and Archer, except obviously these aren't the equivalent of sprites with like pre-rendered pieces. This is fully drawn and animated digitally.
Yeah. It's the Martian Manhunter's in it.
Lobo.
Yeah, Lobo, Parasite. Sort of the origin of Parasite, which I didn't know of. Although I think it might be a different origin than the comics. Christopher says, saw that good flick. Timothy said, anything DC, I find that I don't care enough.
I mean, the animation stuff actually has been really solid.
Yeah.
It's probably like the one area in multimedia that Warner has really just been kicking Disney's butt in when it comes to the comic stuff. Yeah. So like DC's been kicking Marvel's butt at animations.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, it was good. It was a little different. It seems outside the stuff that, story-wise, outside the stuff that they've been doing, I don't think it's part of New 52 or whatever type stuff. I can't remember from anything New 52. Doesn't remind me of it, but it does remind me of something I have read. I'm just not sure what. Christopher says, Reign of Superman was awesome. Yeah, that was good. That was good. That was very close to the comic books, actually, too. That one, which I liked. There was a few changes from the comics, obviously.
Well, they actually put an issue for the Man of Tomorrow series out this year in April, right? That him fighting Parasite. So I think it's trying to follow the line that they started. And knowing them, they probably started the line just to promote this movie. Would have had to have been pretty much on their way to being done with the movie by April. Because they would have had to have been in post-production from then on out.
Mrs. Dillon says, can we change Dumb Woman's name? Let's call her Palmolive.
Paloma?
Palmolive, you know, the soap?
Oh, it says Paloma.
And
which is kind of like, what was it, in The Tick? When Miss Lynch showed up to Walter's birthday party, that's the name. but that's also the name that she gave them to call her, even though Arthur knew that it was Miss Lint.
Oh, she's saying that Palmola, however you want to pronounce it, is Spanish for dove.
Yeah. Paloma. You just sound it out.
Well, we have something similar here spelled.
Did the same thing too, probably while I was saying it because of the delay. Like she was already typing it out.
But we have something similar here. We have the Dove product, and then we have one here by something similar. Oh, Timothy, I'm supposed to be the horrible person because I did a few tweaks on the coloring of Pope Raven. Okay, maybe.
And now John is boycotting you for a month.
Oh, a month.
That's what he said.
I didn't even hear that. You know, I want to put out a good product the best I can. I did not ruin Pope Raven's artwork. Heck, I only touched like about 10% of it.
Yeah, like just drawing a mustache on the Mona Lisa. You only touched like 10% of the portrait.
I did not riddle backgrounds with grass stamps. I think I only riddled like one background with grass stamps. Now,
I don't think I've ever found myself using the stamp tool. I just have brushes that do that stuff.
Yeah, well, it's technically not a stamp. It is a brush, Yeah, I added a bird brush to the background. Create smaller birds in the background. Show Timothy the skyline with the birds.
Yeah. I think I've only ever altered any part of the colors of an artist thing once, and it was for the Kickstarter I was running way back then. But I also asked them if it was cool if I did it first, just because a couple things seemed to be color corrected, and they were cool with it. It was Mark Oliver. He's a cool guy. But I wouldn't have done it without his permission, because you don't really touch somebody's art.
Yeah. Well, I think Pope Raven knew I was going to do a little bit. I think I'd have to look at my DMs to be sure. I was running out of time. It was hard to get together with Pope Raven to talk about this stuff, if not impossible. Because Pope Raven, I don't think, even likes coming into a chat where it would have been just me and him and talking. And that's stuff that needed to be done to get this stuff done.
Oh yeah, if you want information from Pope Raven, you have to use a cat as a middleman.
I have no remorse because I don't feel like I did something wrong, because I needed the book to look better. A little better. Okay. We'll open that stuff. I'm going to look at my...
It's like, show them the bird pictures. Let's take a vote.
Oh, Dillard opened the Hangout.
Oh, she said, "Where's John?" I'm guessing he's in the studio because he just said he was back in the hangout.
Yeah, he sent a link for it in the
Which I would not have even said if it wasn't for the fact that Rick already said that. Since it is technically a closed DM.
Let's see. Are they all open? Yeah. Okay, so Control O, and then I will show what I've. Yeah, I will.
Rick on trial for his crime. What is this? Some type of tribunal? Rick, can you afford an attorney, or do we have to get you a public defendant?
I think I'll defend myself.
Okay.
As soon as this things open up here. Okay, so.
Do Canadians get solicitors? I would assume so. Don't everybody get solicitors?
Okay, so here is Pope Raven's page. Version. And then.
I don't think they can see that.
Oh, I probably didn't switch it over, did I?
No.
Okay, so there's
there's
Pope Raven's page. Version.
Just asking what Canadians call attorneys. I would assume you just call them attorneys, right?
Yeah, or lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers. Yeah, I think we all still speak English, unless they have like a colloquial word for it, but...
So I did change the colors on the sign to match what the colors are actually for the place, their sign. And I matched the colors on the guide just to put them to what I had before. And I put birds in the background. And I put a little bit extra shading. The birds are right there and there. So there's the birds on mine.
Well, okay, so in England, they actually have two different words for what a lawyer is, or an attorney. They are all still technically attorneys. Attorney is a proper word, but they use solicitor, which are people who handle like wills and documents and stuff. That's kind of more similar to a notary. And then there's trial attorneys, like in the U.S., and those are called barristers, which is kind of like the bar and stuff like that.
Okay,
Since Mrs. Dillard asked.
I think that's page 9. No, it might not be page 9. Page 6. Okay, so there's page 9. Pope Raven's version. Oh, no, page 6 we're going for. And there's yes, he's in lava.
She says, "See, I rest my case."
Okay.
Also, like, how fast is he flying, right? Think about it. Would you even see birds at the speed he'd be flying at? Or would they just be like blurs?
Yeah, I guess that's possible that they'd be more like blurs. But the background to me was a little too plain. Timothy says too many birds. He's not saying that the birds don't look nice in the background. He's just saying that he thinks there's too many. Pope Raven version. Pope Raven.
Yeah, and like I even get what John was saying too, because there's like there's a simplicity to it, right? And there can be a strength in simplicity.
Yeah.
And Pope Raven did a good job keeping it simplistic. And it probably did it on purpose too, because I've seen Pope Raven color.
Yeah.
And Pope Raven colors really well.
Yeah, he does. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but he felt that he didn't have enough time, I don't want
to put words in his mouth.
No. Yeah, and he was worried about getting the coloring done too, and getting it to him. Okay, after the thing. And he said somewhere in here about possibly just doing flats to get them done in time. So if they're flats, here, can you send me any pages you have color? Would you like to do You'd like to do an update with them? Have you colored page 1 yet? How's coloring coming?
Mrs. Dillard wants to know if you can zoom in on the lava.
Yeah, I can. On mine or Pope Raven's?
Probably yours, since that's the one that's on the screen.
Yeah, just because probably some shading or dark spots that I put in the lava. Pope Raven did the major coloring for me, and then I just went over some things that I thought needed tweaked to make it more vibrant. Because he was even feeling pressured, I had to ask, do you want me to finish the coloring? And he says, I'm going to try to finish some now, but if you need the book done soon, then you should probably color some too. And then I'm like, we can go to the end of March, mid-April. This is when I thought I wasn't having problems with the money, so I didn't realize.
Yeah, you had plenty of time.
Yeah, I didn't realize it back then. I wanted to get things out for June.
Eagle says, Rick, I think you should get rid of the birds and put a pterodactyl attacking the Canadian shield.
Well, it's too late now for that.
And Timothy's asking what would be the appropriate amount of birds to Mrs. Dillard. Maybe 6. She's like, LOL, I can do 6.
Yeah, well, the birds.
And lava burgers, yummy.
If there were 6.
Lava burgers? Are there burgers in there?
No.
I could go for a burger.
Okay, there's a little bunch of stuff about trying to get the files to me.
Man, I'm kind of hungry. I'd probably eat something immediately after this. I ate before I went on my podcast, but all I had was like a bowl of tomato bisque because I needed something I could make quick before hopping on. But, you know, I podcast for 3 hours. Already been on for, let's see, on your way to the actual 2-hour mark, right? So I've been streaming for 5 hours straight.
Yeah.
And I'm hungry.
Yes, I did, Mrs. Dillard. I already approved the proof. I like the look of this comic. Says Timothy.
The Eagle says, then you never speak of pterodactyl and leave it as a mystery. It's just a world where pterodactyls exist in Canada. But if they'd be anywhere, it'd probably be Canada. Or Australia, one of those two places.
So there was some talk of me doing some coloring on the book with him. And he even, I think before I read that one spot, I think there was some suggestion or whatever too. I can't find it all. Some of it might have happened over things.
So how much you want to put money down that John might do a burning of one of his copies of the Canadian Shield in honor of Pope Raven?
Okay, so I thought so. I'm not sure what that Canadactyl.
So the I thought so was to the response of her asking whether you proved the proof or not.
Hey, Mark, how are you? Oh, that's good that you're jumping by for a bit. So, there's page 5. These are my pages right now. Here's the tufts of grass that she talked about. The only panel it appears in, the tufts of grass.
Probably gonna have to zoom in because you can't really make out anything.
Looks like weeds.
Uh-oh, someone might have beef. I want beef right now. Stop talking about food.
Yeah, I really need to beef up some of the coloring. I should say that too. Rick, you need to replace the birds with World War II era planes attacking the shield. Well, the Canadian shield could definitely ask one of your vultures. And I tried to add some shadows to these trees on the ground. So there's some of those changes that everybody was wondering about. Or Mrs. Dillard wanted me to show off.
Okay, these shadows look different. Is this the page where I watched you add shadows to the trees?
Those aren't to the trees, but for the trees.
From the trees, yeah, whatever, you know.
Could be.
Because I remember watching you one day. You were just in a hangout with us or whatever, and you were just adding. Maybe it was a stream, right? And you were just adding shadows coming from trees, like cast shadows.
Could be. That could be the page. Any mention of the buckler in the comic? In mine, the Canadian Shield #1, no. But because the buckler...
It's a different buckler.
Yeah. And technically, depending on how you look at it, the buckler, even in John's universe, doesn't exist till about 3 or 4 years into the Shields.
Oh, yeah. Because the Shield has to have already been doing things for the buckler to even, be enamored and stuff.
Yeah.
A roast, dude. I had a roast recently. Grilled outside. It was great. Just like cut in half, and it was like 2 roast made. Everybody just had half a roast. It's pretty good. Brisket is great too. You know what's the best thing about brisket? Being in Texas. Because nobody knows how to handle brisket like they do in Texas.
Yeah. And the buckler in the actual Crossverse is going to be a little bit different too. So I've let John use of the Canadian Shield for Cursed Comics, I guess, in stuff for the buckler. Because
it is an alternate universe.
Yeah. It's part of the cross multiverse, possibly part of the cross multiverse, or the curse, or is Cross Comics part of the Cursed Comics multiverse, or a bit of both.
Well, I think your mom's sending out that reminder there saying good night and God bless you all. It is just about that time.
Yes, it is. She likes to remind everybody. And then, of course, Bullet says, "Damn it, Linda, we were talking about meat." Yes, we were trying to make Metal more hungry.
Yeah, I'm really hungry. I'm probably going to go like scarf down a bunch of hot dogs or something. Just whatever's on hand.
Christopher says, "I think I heard Dillard just scream." Okay, so
I ate like all of this watermelon too during the stream. I'm still hungry, but watermelon's not filling because it's like mostly water and fiber. That's all it is.
Okay, so it is that time. Can we get it? So it is just you.
I got that thing. Shabam. There we go.
So, take it away.
Yeah. I'm just going to promote the same thing I always promote, which is xdynamuschaos.com. Links in the chat. It's my personal website with my brand and my own little universe where I have a bunch of stories that you can read for free. And if you enjoy it, you can support it either buying a physical copy or sending a tip to the site or even buying merchandise because I got stuff for that. Whatever. But if you don't feel like supporting it, hey, there's still free stuff up that you can read. Bunch of interconnected things. And also, I just did this today, so go catch me on my podcast sometime. That's the wrong dude.
Yeah.
Which is every Saturday to Wednesday at 6 Central. Boom. There you go.
And it is a pretty good show. I watched a bit of it today. I've been on it once. So, yeah, check it out. So, yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by. We will be coloring this tomorrow, although I'm not sure how much there's to color. Her wings, and her gloves, her belt, and her face mask. Because, the rest of her suit's white. So, although technically...
Well, see, that's why you got to do it all on cream paper so you can actually color it white.
Yeah, well, I'm going to actually have to color it white anyways because I take all the, the paper out, so...
Yeah.
I do that.
And then you put, like, your gray for your flat layer.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks, Metal, for coming on and being on the panel. Thanks for everybody coming out in the chat. It's been a good time. We will be on tomorrow on Twitch at noon. And then we will be here tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. So we'll catch y'all later. Bye for now. God bless. Have a great night. Love y'all.
See ya.